Good morning, everyone. My name is Jeffrey Salant. I am the HOA Information Officer for the Division of Real Estate, which is a division of the Colorado Department of Regulatory Agencies, also known as DORA. This morning, we are going to talk about some best practices for handling disputes in HOAs. There are 3 handouts attached to this webinar: a PDF copy of this presentation, a copy of the Colorado Common Interest Ownership Act, also known as CCIOA or Kiowa, and a copy of the Colorado Nonprofit Act. You may download them by clicking on the blue links located under the Handouts tab on the GoToWebinar control panel. This webinar will be recorded and uploaded to the division's YouTube channel. Once available, you may access it via the link to the division's YouTube channel on the PDF handout of this presentation in the second to last slide. Please note the information provided during this presentation is for educational purposes only and not meant to provide or be construed as legal advice. Any legal questions should be directed to your attorney. Before we get into the presentation topics, I want to take just a few minutes to walk you around the HOA Information and Resource Center's website. It is located at DRE, as in Division of Real Estate, dre.colorado.gov/HOA-center. Once you arrive at our splash page here, you'll notice there are 6 subcategories. The first is Register Your HOA. Our HOA Registration Services page provides some basic information regarding the requirement that all HOAs register with the Division of Real Estate, as well as information regarding the fees associated with that. Only associations that have greater than $5,000 in annual revenue are required to pay the registration fee. You can also renew your registration here as well. Under the HOA Forums section, you will notice information regarding upcoming forums. This is today's, how to handle disputes. Next month in November, we'll be partnering with the Civil Rights Division for a discussion of Colorado's fair housing laws and HOAs. And in December, we will be talking about budgeting for an association. Over here, we have the division's public calendar where you can see events both related to HOA and related to the Division of Real Estate generally. The next section is File a Complaint. Although the HOA Information and Resource Center and the Division of Real Estate, as well as DORA as a whole, do not have any investigative or enforcement capabilities to address HOA complaints, we do encourage you to file them with us because we record the issues and matters of concerns into a statistical database, which is later compiled into an annual report. You may file a complaint online using the link under Resources, or you may download the form to fill it out physically and mail it into the division. The next section is Board Member Education. Here you will find more than a dozen short videos on a variety of issues relating to the role of a board member in an HOA. While they are geared towards board members, there's lots of great information here for homeowners as well. So please check out this page if you have any questions about any of these topics and would like a quick overview of them. And again, it's everything ranging from roles and responsibilities to meetings and meeting procedures, records, maintenance, and of course, covenants, bylaws, rules, and regulations. The next section is the Homeowner Toolkit. This is geared towards folks who have not lived in an HOA before, perhaps haven't owned a home in an HOA. There's some information regarding HOA basics, wonderful publication regarding what to know before you purchase in an HOA. There's some previous forums held on state laws, on governing documents. and some additional resources here at the bottom, again, geared towards folks who aren't familiar with an HOA, or maybe who do live in an HOA and would just like to know a little bit more generally. And finally, we have our resources page. This page will redirect you to some of our previously viewed resources, as well as this area down here, which takes just a moment to load. This is our HOA Resource Database. You can search by category over here, and you can see that we have a variety of categories. There's plenty of information regarding state laws and federal laws. And over here, we have a keyword search. So if you're looking for a copy of the Colorado Common Interest Ownership Act, you would start typing Colorado Common. Oh, there it is right there. If you click only, it shows just that. And if you click here, you will pull up the full text of the Colorado Common Interest Ownership Act, which again is attached as a PDF to this presentation. This is our website. Please do visit. Down here, we have our email updates. If you're not already part of our email list, please do sign up. There will be timely email blasts, informational publications, information regarding upcoming forums, and you can unsubscribe at any time. So please do take a look at that. During today's presentation, we will be discussing some of the more common issues that typically precipitate HOA disputes. We'll discuss several ways to handle disputes in general. We will touch on alternative dispute resolution. What is it, and how may it be a useful alternative to litigation? And additionally, we will discuss why one of the most important things to remember about disputes in an HOA is being thoughtful when picking your battles. Before we dive into our discussion on handling HOA disputes, I want to mention a few things to keep in mind during the presentation. The first and foremost thing to keep in mind is that the executive board of a homeowners association has a great deal of authority and decision-making power. Generally speaking, unless the governing documents of an HOA or some provision of Kiowa speaks directly to an issue, it will likely fall to the board to determine the outcome. Fortunately, there are many rights which are preserved in Kiowa. Just a few of those are rights such as the right to vote in the election of board members, the right to attend board and committee meetings, and the right to inspect certain records of the association. And these are just a few. As a homeowner, these enumerated rights and many others specifically outlined in Kiowa should be at the top of your list when deciding how to spend your energy in disagreeing with the decision made by your board. Likewise, as a board member, you should be most discerning with decisions regarding rights that are spelled out in Kiowa. The simple reason for this is that should the matter come before a court, specific enumerated rights of an association member are more easily decided by a court, and quite possibly in the favor of the holder of that right, then would be a situation where the board may have some discretion in making a decision. For example, it may make more sense for a homeowner to spend their time and energy defending their right to attend a board meeting than for them to spend time and resources demanding a change in, say, the company that trims the trees, which is a decision that is generally left to the board. Although neither the Division of Real Estate nor the HOA Information and Resource Center have any jurisdiction over HOAs or community association managers, we do accept complaints related to HOAs. This is in order to create and maintain a statistical database, which is used on an annual basis to write a report to the Colorado General Assembly. The state's legislators may then use this information contained in the annual report to assist in the consideration of regulation or other laws that may affect members of HOAs. Some of the more common issues that we see are related to maintenance either not being performed or being performed at an unsatisfactory level, issues related to specific vendors, such as snow removal and landscaping companies, again, either not performing or performing at an unsatisfactory level, issues related to an association's management company, again, either not performing or performing at an unsatisfactory level, issues related to meetings, such as who's being allowed to participate and who is not, what is being discussed and or voted on and what is not, why money is being spent on something or why it isn't, and when and where meetings are being held, especially now during the pandemic. We also see many issues related to finances and record retention and production to owners. The most typical manner in which HOAs choose to organize in Colorado as businesses is as a nonprofit corporation. When you purchase property in an HOA, you become a member of the corporation by virtue of your ownership interest in the property located within the association. The relationship between a homeowner in an HOA and the association itself is essentially a contractual relationship. It may be helpful to think of the governing documents as the terms of that contract. Despite widespread belief, HOAs are not quasi-governmental entities, and in the state of Colorado, they do not enjoy any regulatory oversight. So, you have a dispute. You're angry, and you may feel as though your concerns are not being heard or taken seriously. Most homeowners want to know where their money is going, or air a grievance about the management company, or are concerned about an increase in assessments. Repeatedly, the situation unnecessarily escalates because the homeowner, the board, or a manager fails to communicate in an appropriate and timely manner. Take a deep breath and think before you act. Think clearly about the issue before approaching the board or a manager or a homeowner. The issue may be major to you, but it may be minor in the grand scheme of what the HOA or the management company has responsibility for. Keep in mind that the board is composed of volunteers, and the management company has the entire association to manage with finite resources. Ask yourself if this is something that is within their ability to help you with. Ask yourself, is this a problem I can answer or fix myself? Knowledge is power. Read all of your governing documents. Often when we talk to homeowners, they have not taken the time to read their governing documents that will frequently provide the answers to their questions. The governing documents, including the Declaration of Covenants, or CC&Rs, the bylaws and the rules and regulations of the association, are the contracts that govern the relationship between you and the HOA. Taking the time to know your contractual rights and generally understanding the laws governing homeowner associations will help you consider and understand your rights and responsibilities in the HOA. The next step is to talk to the board. If there is a dispute, communicate your problem. Give the board or management company a call to address your issue. If you have already done this and have not received a response, or you received an unsatisfactory response, consider reaching out again in writing and voice your dissatisfaction in an appropriate manner, staying professional and courteous. Being rude and demanding only sets the stage for a litigious atmosphere, potentially causing a minor issue to become a large personal dispute. You may also address your issues at a meeting. Most HOAs reserve a time for homeowner issues, but understand that the board controls what's on the agenda, and they may not have the time to listen to a myriad of homeowner grievances. If you cannot get results through a conversation, provide your requests in writing. Writing a letter helps to document your position and may help take the emotion out of a conversation. Regardless of your method of communication, Document your issues and your correspondence with the other party. There is strength in numbers. Talk to other members of your association. Chances are that if you have an issue with the decision of the HOA, others may as well. By approaching the board with others, you increase your likelihood that you may effectuate change. Use the democratic means of the HOA to make change first. Litigation should be a last resort for a homeowner. Litigation is costly to the association, not only financially, but it also creates an unfriendly atmosphere. Be active and knowledgeable in your association. If there are directors who you feel are not acting in the HOA's best interest, attempt to run for that position on the board yourself, or elect directors who you feel will act in the community's best interest and that you trust. There are also means to remove officers and directors under the law and most likely your bylaws. Also, there are procedures under the law and your governing documents to change the covenants and bylaws, although this often requires significant homeowner involvement and time. Alternative dispute resolution, frequently referred to as ADR, can be an effective means to resolve disputes short of litigation. ADR is generally defined as the use of methods such as mediation and arbitration to resolve a dispute instead of litigation. It is amazing what can happen if you sit parties down and talk about the issues. There are several ways that disputing parties within an HOA may enter into ADR. The first and most obvious is voluntarily. The parties informally agree to enter into discussions and try to resolve the issues. The next is by written agreement, which outlines the terms of the mediation discussions and may also provide for consequences if a resolution cannot be met. Another way disputing parties in an HOA may enter into ADR is by following any applicable HOA policy, which may require it as a step in the resolution process. Finally, parties may be required to enter into ADR pursuant to a court order if litigation has already been initiated. Many courts require the parties to attempt ADR before hearing the merits of the case. There are many benefits to ADR which you will not get through the typical litigation process. These include saving time and resources by not engaging an attorney and by not being subject to the lengthy litigation process, as well as having more say in the resolution of your dispute via the participation in the process. Most HOA governing documents provide for mediation or arbitration. In fact, Section 38-33.3-124 of Kiowa encourages associations, unit owners, managers, declarants, and all other parties to disputes to agree to make use of all available public or private resources for alternative dispute resolution, including, without limitation, the resources offered by the Office of Dispute Resolution within the Colorado Judicial Branch through its website. Additionally, one of the responsible governance policies required by Kiowa is a procedure for addressing disputes arising between the association and unit owners. But even if your governing documents do not provide for mediation or arbitration, you can always request that mediation be attempted prior to going to court. Lengthy and costly litigation can have a devastating effect on the budget and morale in an HOA. Unfortunately, sometimes the issues at hand are just too complex for the parties to come to an agreement on their own. Other times, the parties simply cannot come to an agreement, and the issue or issues need to go through the courts for resolution. You should know the risks and rewards before making this decision, and it is wise to contact an attorney. As outlined in Kiowa, a court may award reasonable attorney's fees, costs, and/or the costs of collection to the prevailing party in any civil action to enforce or defend the provisions of Kiowa or of the declaration, bylaws, articles, or rules and regulations of the association. When researching legal counsel, I always recommend including the phrase community association attorney, as community association law is a subset of real estate law, which not all real estate attorneys specialize in. You should be sure to choose an attorney who is experienced in handling disputes involving HOAs and is well-versed in Kiowa. Compromise is key. When attempting to resolve a dispute, it's important to understand that you may not always get the exact resolution you're looking for. Living in a homeowners association means that sometimes the wills of others are imposed on the whole membership. If a decision is made by a board and the proper processes were followed, you may have to live with that decision. Just like in any representative democracy, you are subject to the decisions that you may not politically or personally agree with. Also, similarly to a representative democracy, if you are unhappy with your leadership, it is your duty to vote for the candidacy of someone you trust or run for election to the board of directors yourself. For many of us, our home is our largest asset. So, understandably, when someone tries to tell us what we may or may not do with it, we might naturally become defensive. Recognizing your own emotions during a dispute and effectively managing them will quite frequently encourage the other party to do the same, and it may lead to more effective dispute resolution. There are many personalities involved in living in and governing an HOA. Practice managing different personalities by listening to others for the purpose of understanding their perspective, rather than listening so you may respond in opposition. Try looking at the issue from the other party's viewpoint. If you were in their shoes, how would you react to the issue? Would it be as easy to come to your current conclusion if the roles were reversed? Boards in particular should make it a point to be as kind and compassionate as possible when dealing with disputes concerning homeowners. Many of the complaints filed with the HOA Information and Resource Center are issues that could be resolved if board members and homeowners removed the emotion from their dealings and were more transparent. A key component to transparency is communication. A large number of complaints received by the HOA Information and Resource Center suggest that board members and/or managers fail to communicate properly with homeowners or allow for an unreasonable amount of time to pass before communicating. Homeowners should keep in mind that board members are volunteers, and it may not always be practical for them to respond to correspondence from homeowners immediately. However, a quick response stating that the board has received the correspondence and will respond once they have an opportunity to review would go a long way with many homeowners. Despite effective communication, disputes may become heated and either party may react without thinking clearly. If either party becomes unreasonable or emotional, try and take the high road and lead by example. As we wrap up today's presentation on tips and tricks for handling HOA disputes, I would like to go over a few takeaways to keep on the top of your mind. Remember, the executive board of your association calls most of the shots. If you don't like their decisions, or you just don't like who they are, you should consider running for their position on the board yourself, or you should encourage the candidacy of someone else whom you would support in that role. When living in or governing an HOA, knowledge truly is power. Make sure that you have copies of your association's governing documents and familiarize yourself with them. Download copies of Kiowa and the Nonprofit Act from today's presentation or from the resources section of our website. Browse them and familiarize yourself with the sections that are most relevant to your concerns. Remember to pick your battles wisely. You have many rights as a homeowner. It is more advisable to utilize your time, energy, and resources on issues where you have a clear right or entitlement. Standing your ground when it comes to requesting financial records that you are entitled to under Kiowa is a much more reasonable effort than getting mad about which landscaping company has been chosen. Disputes may become heated. Before you react on emotion, take a deep breath and remember to treat others the way that you would like to be treated. Focus on concise, effective communication rather than frequent and irrelevant communication. Build a consensus. Before going to the board with an issue that may be divisive, talk to your neighbors about it. If they feel the same way, consider collaborating on bringing the issue to your board. HOAs are communities, and decisions are frequently made that are in the best interest of the community, but not necessarily each individual member. When engaged in a dispute with your HOA, keep in mind that compromising on an issue may be your best hope for resolution. Be kind to one another. These are your neighbors, not your adversaries. Research your association's policy on alternative dispute resolution and utilize it when needed. Litigation can fuel animosity in an HOA and will present all parties with significant costs. Resort to the courts